I wanted to talk about my grandmother Dorothy. Her name was she was born Dorothy Geraldine Fowler. She was my mother's mother, and unfortunately she passed away much too soon. She was 64 when she passed away. Anyway, she was born on October 24th, 1905 in Michigan. It's like, and I don't have a record or anything of where she, at least right now, I don't have a record of where she was born in Michigan. It's like I know they lived a lot of their life in the Coldwater area, so it was maybe in that general area. And then she passed away on October 18th, 1969. She is buried at Roosevelt Cemetery in the city of Gardena. She was 63, almost didn't quite make it to 64. And she had some health problems and stuff later in her life. Anyway, she had two daughters. She was married to a man named Oscar Leopold House, and she had two daughters with him. It's Joyce and Joanne. Joanne is my mother. Joyce was actually it was Marilyn Joyce was her name, but she was always called Joyce. And with my mother, she was known as Joan Carroll was her name, and I'm her second kid. She had three kids. My mother had three kids: Sam and myself and my sister Nanny. Anyway, she was a really good grandmother. She was fantastic. It's like if you wanted to have a really good grandmother, it's like you think about how it's like some grandmothers I think are better than others, but we were blessed with a really good one. She really cared about us. She had kind of a tough life growing up, and even when she got married, the man she married, Oscar, they ended up getting divorced. He was, I guess he was running around with other women and stuff. And another weird story is like I guess my grandmother at some point got some phone call from some woman, and I think this was after they had split up and everything. That some woman had called her saying that she was pregnant with his kid. So I think my mother might have probably at least one other sibling running around out there if they're still around. Anyway, uh, so so anyway, so she basically spent a lot of her life in Coldwater, Michigan, on a farm. And when she broke up with her husband Oscar, she eventually met. At some point, she met the man we call Pappy. His name was Samuel Burtsell White, and who was the love of her life. He was really good to her, and they just had like a close relationship, and he valued her a lot, and she did him as well. So anyway, they were happy together. And during it was kind of tough. She was like Dorothy was the second born. She had an older sister named Mary, who married a man named Dwight Bowen. And unfortunately, Mary kind of died young. She was I think in her early 40s. I have to look up the information on it, but she passed away much too soon. And then she had two younger brothers, and I think they were a number of years younger. I have to look that up too. It's like, but she Kenneth. Actually, his name was actually I think Henry Kenneth Fowler, but he went by his middle name Kenneth. And then the youngest one was Charles Fowler. And actually, as far as like the siblings go, she was the most fond of the youngest brother, Charles Fowler. It's like they had a closer relationship. Um, I remember her telling me some years ago. Apparently, her parents. It was, I guess, quite obvious that they favored, and their favorite was Mary, the firstborn, and apparently it was like kind of obvious to her. And I remember my grandmother saying things like, when I was like a kid and young teenager, saying that she never played favorites with the two daughters or anybody else because that she grew up kind of with that. So it's like she didn't favor one kid over another or anything. She didn't want to do that to her kids or grandkids or anything. So anyway, it's like the let's see, I'm trying to think of some other stuff. My grandmother, it's like I got some information here. It's like she was Let's see. She worked. I know she worked. She had to work because they split up. She had to go to work. And she had to support her kids. My grandfather worked as a truck driver, basically. She had to. I know she worked in sewing factories and so on. That was a thing back. A way a woman could really make a living back then was sewing. So she did a lot of that, and actually was kind of like a hobby too. And she actually, I think she actually helped. She helped me with my sewing projects when I was like in junior high school and stuff. We had to take sewing as a class, so she helped me with that. And actually, I think a couple of projects she probably actually did for me. Anyway, so um, she uh, she also made dresses for us. The she Yeah, I remember her. We kind of hated the dresses. They looked like sack dresses. But it's like she did what she could for us. And It's like, and they were kind of playing. They were kind of embarrassing to wear to school and stuff, but we did anyway. And She was a she also did she also like my like in class when I took them, she did the sewing projects for us, of course. Then She was also known for being a good cook and especially a good baker. She was really into baking stuff, and one of the things that she was known for was her molasses cookies. She had a recipe for molasses cookies and sour cream cookies, and she was well known for those. Um, and Let's see. She married. I just wanted to mention that she married when she married Pappy. Pappy was the love of her life. She was so happy with him. And it's the She had. Let's see. I have some pictures of her. It's like one of those things when you're trying to find pictures. You got plenty of pictures of somebody, but when you go to try and find them, you can't locate the good ones. So it's like, anyway, this one in particular, I was going to mention. She was attended my brother's wedding. The oldest. She was very fond of Sam. She thought the world of him, and that's his wife next to Sam, and then that's my grandmother. And this was less than a year before she passed away. So that's her and stuff. So, and she was so happy. We have some other pictures. She was so happy when Sam got married. She was overjoyed. And I remember her having like contacting a company to see if they could do a donut recipe, because it's like the box mixes and stuff were very popular back then. So it's like you get cake mixes and stuff, and so you do cakes and so on, and uh, she actually wrote to a couple of the companies that were making those. It was probably like Betty Crocker, and I can't think of the names of the others, but to see if they could do a donut recipe, which is kind of unique. And I think they do have donut mixes and stuff now, but I thought that was kind of interesting. One of the little oddball things, it's like one of the other oddball things is like she lived in a this is not so oddball. It's like she lived in a house on 164th Street. Her and Pappy bought a house when they moved out from Michigan to L.A., the L.A. area. They got a house at 1037 West 164th Street in Gardena, and it's one of the oldest homes in Gardena. It's one of the older homes that was probably built in the early 1900s, So, and it's a really neat house. They were very happy there. And we do have pictures of somewhere. I've got some old film footage of us in the front yard when we were just little kids. But it's like I just wanted to mention the um, her house in Gardena. It's like also her nickname when she was a kid was Dutch. Apparently, I guess she looked kind of Dutch when she was a kid. And yeah, I look back at some old pictures of her. I don't have one here right now, but I had. It's like they. Uh, uh, she looked kind of Dutch, and I think it's because of the haircut that she had. So it's like so. Anyway, that's some interesting stuff. I've got to do a few more on my grandmother, and thanks for watching.